My sister turned me into a girl to get revenge on her ex, and even now I am not sure if I should thank her or curse her for it. It all started on a Thursday afternoon when I came home from school and found her sitting in her room with that look on her face that meant she was plotting something. You know the kind of look, half mischievous grin and half furious glare, like she was about to burn the whole world down but wanted to make it entertaining while she did. I knocked on her door and asked if she was okay, and she spun around like she had just been handed a gift from the universe. She told me her ex had humiliated her at a party by showing up with some new girl, pretending my sister never mattered, and she wanted payback that would leave him speechless. I thought she meant she wanted to slash his tires or post embarrassing photos, but no, her eyes flicked over me in that calculating way and she said, "You're perfect for this." At first I laughed, because what could I possibly do? I was her younger brother, awkward and lanky, and nowhere near the glamorous schemes she usually involved herself in. But she shook her head and explained her plan. She was going to turn me into the girl of his dreams, flaunt me in front of him, and let him drown in jealousy without ever realizing he was looking at me instead of her new friend. I thought she was insane. I told her flat out there was no way I could pass as a girl, but she just smirked and said, "Leave it to me." The next few hours were a blur of protests, arguments, and finally a strange sort of surrender. My sister had always been the type to get what she wanted, and when she reminded me of all the times I had begged her to cover for me when I was in trouble, I knew I owed her. She promised it would only be for one night, just long enough to make her ex regret everything, and then I could go back to my normal life. Somehow, against my better judgment, I agreed. That was the moment everything changed. She started by pulling out clothes from her closet, things I had never dared to look at too closely because they were so undeniably feminine. Dresses that shimmered under the light, skirts that looked like they belonged in a fashion magazine, blouses softer than anything I owned. She held each piece against me, tilting her head and muttering to herself as if I were some kind of canvas. I kept insisting that none of it would fit, but she seemed prepared for everything. She altered, pinned, and adjusted with the confidence of someone who had planned this for longer than she admitted. Soon she shoved me toward the bathroom with a bundle of clothes in my arms and told me not to come out until I had put them on. Standing there, staring at myself in the mirror, I felt my heart hammer against my ribs. I slipped into the outfit piece by piece, awkward and self-conscious, and when I finally looked up, the reflection already seemed different. My frame looked slimmer, softer, reshaped by the fabric clinging in ways I had never seen. My sister burst into the room without knocking, and for the first time I saw her jaw drop. She whispered that I was going to be perfect, and, before I could argue, she dragged me to her vanity. The makeup was the part one feared most, but she treated it like a science. She brushed foundation across my face, hiding the blemishes I had always hated, and used powders and colors to sculpt shadows and highlights that made my cheekbones sharp and my eyes stand out. Every brushstroke felt like a transformation not only of my face, but of my identity. I wanted to close my eyes and disappear, but curiosity kept me peeking. When she applied eyeliner and mascara, my eyes suddenly looked huge, framed by lashes I never thought could belong to me. Lipstick was the final step, a soft shade at first, then something bolder when she shook her head and said, "No, we need drama." The person in the mirror looked nothing like the brother I knew. The person looked like someone new entirely. But she wasn't done. She brought out a wig, long and glossy, a deep chestnut color that caught the light beautifully. She adjusted it carefully, pinned it tight, and brushed it out until it flowed naturally around my shoulders. I lifted my hand to touch it, and for the first time I felt a shiver of something I couldn't quite name. Was it fear or excitement, or the strange thrill of not knowing who I was anymore? My sister stepped back and smiled with satisfaction, telling me I looked stunning. I wanted to argue, but part of me couldn't, because I almost believed her. She made me practice walking in heels, stumbling and cursing at first until she gripped my shoulders and told me to own it, to stop thinking like myself and start thinking like the girl I had become. She gave me a new name, quick and casual, and when she called me by it, something inside me responded without hesitation. Every step, every glance, every word she coached me through felt like shedding a layer of who I thought I was. The hours slipped by until I hardly recognized my reflection anymore, but instead of fear, I started feeling something else: power. When the night of the party came, my nerves nearly destroyed me. Walking into that room felt like stepping onto a stage, everyone's eyes turning to me, and not one of them recognizing who I really was. My sister's ex froze when he saw me, his smug confidence cracking for the first time. My sister leaned in and whispered that the plan was working, but I hardly heard her. I was too focused on the way people looked at me, the way they smiled and leaned closer, as if I belonged among them. I should have been terrified, but instead I felt alive. The night spiraled into a blur of conversations, laughter, and stolen glances. I played the role perfectly, each movement more convincing than the last, until I almost forgot it was a role at all. The ex tried to talk to me, stumbling over his words, clearly enchanted, and my sister glowed with satisfaction. But what struck me most was not his jealousy, it was my own reflection in the windows, mirrors, and even the shine of glasses. Every time I caught sight of myself, I wondered if this was really me or if I had just been pretending my whole life until now. When it was over, when we left the party with victory written all over my sister's face, I expected relief. I expected to rip off the wig, wash away the makeup, and collapse back into my old life. But standing in front of the mirror once more, I hesitated. My sister told me I could change back now, that I had done my part, but she looked at me closely and asked if I was sure I wanted to. That question hung in the air heavier than anything else. I stared at the girl in the mirror, at the way she seemed strong, confident, and unapologetically herself, and I realized I didn't know the answer. In the days that followed, I told myself it was over, that it had just been one night, a prank, a scheme for revenge. But deep down, something had shifted. I found myself remembering the sound of heels clicking against the floor, the weight of long hair brushing against my back, the way people's eyes softened when they looked at me. I caught myself experimenting in secret, trying on clothes when no one was home, practicing makeup with shaky hands, even whispering the name my sister had given me. It scared me as much as it thrilled me. I wasn't sure who I was anymore or who I wanted to be. My sister, of course, noticed. She cornered me one evening, arms crossed, and told me that maybe this whole thing had been more than revenge. Maybe it had been the push I needed. She reminded me that identity is not always what we are born with, but what we choose to embrace. I wanted to argue, but all I could do was stand there, heart pounding, realizing she might be right. I thought back to the night of the party, to the way I had felt like someone entirely new, and I knew that no matter how much I tried, I couldn't forget it. Even now, when I look in the mirror, I sometimes see my old self, and sometimes I see the girl I became. And maybe the truth is that I am both, shifting and learning, trying to figure out what it means to be me. My sister may have started this as a plan for revenge, but she ended up giving me something far more powerful, the chance to discover who I really am.